Let's go ahead. Welcome to the Lightning Talks. Today we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scheduled talks, and maybe 1 or 2 extras we'll throw in along the way. Everyone's going to get 5 minutes to speak. At about 4 minutes in, I have a bell. At about 5 minutes in, I have a gong, and I'm not afraid to use it. When you finish speaking, I will say who's supposed to be the next ad and a reminder of who's doing the next talk so they can start setting their slides up. We'll do the ad when the ad finishes. Hopefully I will know who the next ad's going to be so I can say who it's going to be, and then we'll start the talk. And remember, when you start your talk, after I say to go, please wait a few seconds so we can cut me out from the YouTube version. And with that, Jason, you may get going.
Hi, so I'm Jason, and my talk is about GNU Make, just trying to give you a little bit of a snake oil salesman pitch on using this instead of shell scripts for doing like data processing. Why would you want to use Make? You already know Bash. You already know some other scripting language. So dependencies are made explicit in Make files. If you're not familiar with Make, it's the program that interprets and executes Make files, usually used to compile software. This is all like in a Linux environment. You've probably already used it if you're familiar with Linux to like install software that wasn't in your distribution's package repository. If you've ever done configure, make build, make install, does that sound familiar? You've used Make, maybe not realizing exactly what was going on. But you can also use Make not just to compile software, but to generically define a data or a processing workflow. So here's a fairly simple Bash script wrapper. So it's a wrapper that that executes a series of other steps. So there's 4 steps in this workflow. And then there's a wrapping script, which is the slide itself. Some of the scripts read output from the previous steps, but Bash doesn't really know that. If I update one of my subscripts, I have to know that something's out of date and rerun either the whole wrapper or comment out lines that I don't want to run. And in this example, step 1 and 2, they could be run in parallel. They don't really depend on each other. You can do this explicitly in Bash by launching processes in the background and then using the wait command. But with Make, you kind of get parallelization kind of for free. So this is the equivalent Make file, doing the same workflow. It's a little longer, obviously. I had to decrease the font size with the slide. I could have saved some typing by using some built-in variables, but the point of this is Make gives me a lot of benefits just for slightly more typing. So if there's an error in step 3, for example, and I need to rerun it, I simply fix the script and run Make on the command line. It'll determine by the timestamps in the files whether anything's out of date, i.e. it has a prerequisite with a new or modified time, and rerun the steps required. I don't have to comment out anything or run the entire script to be sure I haven't missed some dependency. If I want to run steps in parallel, I can specify make-jn, with n being the maximum number of processes allowed. Make also gives the ability to do like a test drive of the process, printing out what steps would be run based on the files and timestamps present, but not actually executed. So in short, Make saves machine time by only running what's necessary and easily running stuff in parallel. It saves human time by eliminating the need to tease out dependencies when something breaks. This does require that dependencies be made sort of explicit in the Make file. So I think it's helped me become like better at teasing out all of the actual workflow. If you write like a very explicit Make file, it forces you to understand exactly what the process entails, what depends on what. So I didn't hear a gong, but I think we're about done with my time. So
You actually had another minute, but let me gong you and make it all official. So, Josh, you are up doing the ad, and Jake, get your slides ready.
All right, I just wanted to call out a project that I think is useful. It's called Barrier. It is, they call it a virtual KVM. So you install this program on two computers next to each other. Could be a Mac, Windows, Linux. Doesn't have to be two of the same thing. And then it lets you move the keyboard and mouse back and forth as if it was a dual screen computer. There's some support. There used to be a program called Synergy that did this, but Synergy went closed source and their version 2 apparently had a bunch of problems, and so I was left without such a thing until I found Barrier recently, and I just thought of it earlier and thought I'd mention it in the as a lightning ad with last time I heard Jeffrey asking for lightning talks. So that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I will now paste a link to it into the chat.
Okay, Jacob, you are up.
All right, hello everybody. Is my audio all right? My video is not on. How about that? I'm Jake. I work for Applied Educational Systems. I need to make sure I let you all know that we are hiring a front-end developer and back-end developer. So if you think you might want to work with us, try and find me or Lon or Ken Richard. Might be on here today. He's in here somewhere too. There's me. Anyway, for my lightning talk, I do apologize. I am not a fast talker, so I'm trying to do my best. I wanted to talk a little bit about something I'm tinkering with. We've been trying to be more intentional about diversity and inclusion in our platform. And we've also been recently working on a redesign of our student interface. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is iconify the idea of a student and a teacher. And that's really difficult to be diverse and also iconified because you have this problem of where you're going to use a static abstract image to represent the idea of a teacher, and what does a teacher look like? So this is our first, not first, but the first version of a kind of a initial revision of a icon that represents a teacher. And immediately people started noticing, okay, well, I think it's a white woman, and I think her style looks a little bit like the 50s, and, all these ideas start to come across. And I started thinking about the idea of, can we be a little bit more dynamic in how we represent this image on the screen? Could we show different variations of what a teacher is on the same general icon? So the first step, of course, is we've got this vector art that our designer created. And the good news is vector art can be exported as an SVG. And SVG is really just a collection of each XML. You can see right here, here's my SVG image. It's got a bunch of math in it and some elements with which I can put IDs on. And because I can do this on all modern browsers currently have native SVG support, and I can traverse the XML, that means I can style it with CSS. Something that I can do if I put IDs on particular groups, I can target them with my CSS and I can change them. We use React for our front end, so I just did a quick little mashup in React here. really simply, this is just importing my SVG image and making a React component out of it. I'm doing just some random math to come up with random numbers between 1 and 3, and I'm making some CSS classes to attach, pass through to my React component. And then over here in my CSS, I've got some variables for skin tones, shirt colors, hair colors, and based on what class I randomly apply to that component, I'm going to change these paths in the SVG to different colors, fill colors, based on whatever class I randomly assign to it. So real quickly, I can go from one static image to this, which is every time I refresh or re-render my page, I'm going to get a slightly different version of my teacher and students. And I'm doing this all with one SVG source. So I don't know, it's something I was playing with a little bit. I thought I'd show you. And this is just a first flush, but something to look at. If you feel free to hit me up if you want to talk about anything like this later on. I'll be around for a little bit, and you can find me in Slack too, @Jake. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Eli, you are getting your slides ready. I don't think we have an advertiser yet, so while you're getting your slides ready, I will just mention that phillylinux.org, the Linux users group around here, meets twice a month, first Wednesdays and second Tuesdays. The third Mondays have been canceled because we lost the space, even though that's unimportant now. So, phillylinux.org. And Eli, you are up.
Great. Thanks, Jeffrey. Jake's talk actually serendipitously ties into my own. I'm going to be talking about Exercism.io, which is an open source platform that I discovered a while ago for learning programming languages. And so I'm just going to walk through a couple aspects of it for you to see. So first step is if you go to this link, Exercism.io, you'll notice it's kind of a promotional page. Code practice and mentorship for everyone. And you can read all about that, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to drop this in the chat so you can see. And then I'm going to switch over actually to the inside track and talk a little bit about this from my perspective, and then also quickly jump into a terminal, and I'll show the command line client. And so what I like about Exercism and what I found helpful is it has a guided track for learning a programming language. And the guided track has mentor feedback, and mentors are actually other people volunteering to give you specific tips on your solutions. And you solve solutions through iteration. So what's a programming language? Well, they have everything under the sun, you could say. There's lots of different languages, from popular ones, from scripting ones to compiled ones. In this case, I've been interested in Rust for a while, and so I found Exercism through a conversation to figure out, okay, how can I practice this more? Because there's some concepts that I don't know as well because of my background or other things. And so this is a dashboard that they've built, and it gives you a great kind of summary of your progression through the track. You can see in this case, I'm a procrastinator. I started this over a year ago. I'm still not quite done. I'm almost there. So maybe if you were to grade me, I get a B, which is fine by me where I'm at right now. But one of the neat things is as you're going through the track, you make a submission. And when you submit, you get this interaction with a mentor who can give you some positive encouragement as well as some tips like, hey, what you did here was maybe a little inefficient, or based on their knowledge of the programming language, they might give you some useful pointers that you can immediately apply. And in this case, I did, and then I create another iteration. And so the other way this can reinforce your learning is you can check out community solutions. So I'm not the only person that's in the Rust track. There's thousands of people, and thousands of other people have published their solutions to this exercise. So you can kind of go in and check out people's solution. You can comment on them. I don't see many people commenting as much, but I have found it helpful to explore how people solve the specific problem, especially when I get stuck. It's not cheating. It's just learning from others in the context where you don't have them next to you in a class or something. So that's a quick overview of the specifics of the track, some of the kind of flavor of those interactions. But one of the things I also like is they publish a CLI. The CLI is standalone. I believe it's written in Go. And it just gives you a quick way to be able to explore these exercises, whether they're the main track exercises or the practice ones on the side. So the main track is kind of that stat I showed you where I'm 85% through the Rust track. That's the canonical list of exercises that are to help you achieve fluency in the language. But there's a ton of other exercises just for practice. So in this case, I think I downloaded, let me see, actually, I killed my history. So you can download the specific exercises using their exercise name. So in this case, it creates a directory in your home folder called exercism with the relative languages in subdirectories. And so in this case, this is an example of one of the practice problems that I recently downloaded. And all I had to do is actually just execute a command, exercism download, and I think it was exercise, ISBN, verifier, that sort of thing. And it should probably yell at me and say, that doesn't work, or no, it does. Cool. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. And yeah, I posted the link, and feel free to ask me any other questions. Thanks.
PJ, you are ready to get your slides ready?
Yes, I am.
A reminder, if you want to give an ad, you have to click the button in the top corner so that you can ask to be able to share your voice and picture. But you're ready whenever you're ready.
All right, can you see my slides?
Yep, go ahead.
Excellent. All right, so my name is PJ. Some of you may have been in my talk earlier about imposter syndrome. This is not about that. There's a bunch of ways to get to know, to talk to me. So what is music? This is just one part of the definition of music that was laid out by a guy named Don Campbell in his book, The Mozart Effect. Don started his research in an interesting way, and like a good scientist, he found that sometimes his conclusions didn't exactly match his hypothesis, but that's okay. His original idea was that music could heal, like better than modern medicine, which is a little bit out there in my opinion, but that's just me. When Don tried it out on Alzheimer's patients, he thought he was seeing what he expected, which is an increase in cognitive function. For non-brain maladies, though, Don was mistaken. He also saw an increase in cognitive function. So what is it that Don played for his patients? Mozart. So Don based his research on testing, so not just for developers, also scientists do it. And this was testing that was performed by a doctor named F.H. Rauscher and his team in 1993 when they posited that mice, then chimps, then humans would perform better at tasks of spatial reasoning if they were listening to Mozart. In humans, the mean spatial IQ score rose 8 to 10 points after listening to a Mozart piece compared to relaxing instructions or just silence. A set of research results that indicate that listening to Mozart's music may induce a short-term improvement on the performance of certain kinds of mental tasks known as spatial temporal reasoning. So that's the Mozart effect. Basically, the idea that listening to Mozart will make you able to perform better due to better ability to focus. Now, music is a stimulator. I think we all know that. We all know it can evoke emotion, give you the feels, and it can also move your brain in every direction. But in 1993, Rauscher and his colleagues made a surprising claim. They thought it was all about Mozart, specifically Mozart's Sonata for two pianos, K448, for about 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute piece. But the interesting thing is, what does this have to do with coding? At heart, we as coders are really doing things with words, translating them into mathematics. Music is essentially an artistic representation of mathematics using sound. So the jump's not monstrously large. So developers, mathematicians, scientists of every shape and size weren't even an afterthought for these researchers. They didn't really care about that. Their initial focus was patients with epilepsy, Alzheimer's, ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, and other maladies of the brain. The fact is, once they started testing on a controlled group of people without any issues with their brain, they found that music to be just as, if not more, stimulating. So the researchers at Harvard and Oxford tried to reproduce this a few years ago, and what they saw was kind of interesting. So the issue was, it wasn't just Mozart. They just only used Mozart in the original test. So the folks at Harvard and Oxford realized it could have been the Bieber effect. It's a similar effect that could be tracked. So let's all try to control ourselves as we gaze at what could be the future of improved mental performance. In reality, however, Bieber is not the answer. While being partial to pieces of music is important, another important part is the content. Not every song will be moving, and not every song will give you a cognitive boost. Okay, so it's important to note this cognitive boost is also not permanent. If that's the case, I've listened to enough music in my life, and probably just today, to be the most intelligent person on the planet, possibly the universe. How most of us have. I mean, let's be realistic. The effect of music on your performance as a coder will be short-lived. Not in the sense that you'll become like Charlie from Flowers for Algernon after the fact, but more like you'll have a steady decrease after you stop listening, back to your normal brain sense. Additionally, the efficacy of the same music repeatedly will mean that you kind of get used to it, kind of like when you take a drug for so long and eventually it kind of goes down. So this is where it gets a bit complicated. All of this starts with your preferences. So if you're raised in a certain culture, even if it was in the United States, you have a certain preference to music. Your parents or caretakers listen to certain music. There's a type of music in other relatives' houses. This all influences what you listen to today. In a South by Southwest keynote a few years ago, Bruce Springsteen, the boss, specifically the one we all work for, addressed the issue of genre. Sometimes this is a problem. He opined, we ought not to get too caught up in what's right and stop paying attention to what sounds good and what makes us feel good. That's what we should focus on. When we feel good, we work better, so don't get too stuck on this. So it's important that while you're seeing what floats your proverbial boat is good, be careful not to have a placebo effect. It kind of works like this. You like the music you're listening to, so it seems effective, so you're reluctant to branch out. Finding new music is a key part of this. So just like working on one project over time can cause stagnation and mental constipation, listening to the same music over and over again can cause the same problem. So what you need to do is find things that are tangentially reasonable and similar to your tastes. Find a new boat. If you know what floats your boat, find other boats. Pandora used to be a great way to do this. Discover Weekly on Spotify works really well for this. Musicforprogramming.com is a site dedicated to providing a mix of tunes that help aid in focus and concentration, so you should check that out. So the RIA isn't really cool with sharing music, but who cares? If you have no other way to do it yourself. Start playing instruments and exploring your space. I just recently picked up the trumpet. I don't know how to play it, but it sure is fun. And if no other way, do it with code. So with that, thank you very much and listen to music. We'll talk to you soon. And I think I have the ad as well, correct?
You do. Go for it.
So my ad is actually for one of the companies that I work with, Mattermost. Everybody knows about Slack. You know what Slack is. You use it every day, but they might be going through this thing where they're getting bought out by a big, huge company and whatever, which is cool. But if you're looking for an open source alternative, check out Mattermost. You can build integrations. You can have a full DevOps cycle inside of your chat ops situation, mattermost.com. If you have questions about it, feel free to ask me. And that's what I got. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
And now you two are up.
Hey, cool, great, excellent. Hello, everybody. My name is Eamon Leonard. I'm based in Dublin, in Ireland. I will be doing my best to speak as fast as PJ. Excellent professional speaker there, available for bar mitzvahs and weddings. I'm going to be chatting to Harper. I'm going to see how many questions we can fit in the next 5 minutes. Going to be awarding points for interesting questions and answers, deducting them for no responses, and I'll give them a prize at the end of it. So, Harper, is that really your name?
It's my middle name, yes.
Oh, we're friends, and I didn't know that. What's your first name?
James.
Interesting. What might people know you from?
They might know me from Threadless, where we made a lot of t-shirts, probably the Obama campaign, where we elected a president, and maybe from, honestly, talking on the internet.
All right, okay. Will you ever not be known as Obama's CTO?
You know, I have tried to do interesting things since then, and I think I've been moderately successful, but it's kind of an okay legacy to be known for. I'm not so worried about it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What was the first computer you ever used?
Apple IIc.
When did you write your first line of code, and what was your first app?
Oh, probably around the same time I got an Apple IIc Basic. It was probably to move some little robot around in the classroom. Or maybe actually it was Logo, now that I think about it. Logo and a turtle. Quick leading to Basic, though.
I'm going to ask a question from the chat here. Someone wants to know how you got the job as Obama CTO.
It was actually relatively complicated. And when I say that, I mean there's not a real way to replicate it or to kind of plan for it. But I had built a network of people working in technology for about 5 or 6 years here in Chicago. And it just one thing led to another. I just bounced from one person to the next. And then someone said, hey, you should talk to this guy, Michael Slavey. And Michael Slavey was like, hey, do you want to help out with the Obama campaign? And I was like, absolutely. And I helped out hiring, and I helped out kind of architecting kind of a plan for building cheap infrastructure. This is 2011. So cloud wasn't as big a deal. And so it was really actually, you had to do some effort. And that kind of led to them saying, oh, maybe you should be CTO. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome and was like, no way, that's crazy. And then, of course, I talked to my father and my partner, and they're both like, you have to do this. This is an awesome opportunity. And I was like, okay, super scary though.
Where'd you get the sweet frames?
A brand called Kuberaum from Berlin.
All right. In as fast a time as possible, tell us about your latest work related to COVID this year.
Yeah, so I mean, like many of us, I was stuck in my basement, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to be helpful. And one of the things that I know that I can do, probably like many of y'all, is we know technology very well, and there's a lot of spaces that don't know technology. So I tried to help out and be an advocate for, helping technology or helping spaces that don't have tech do tech work around COVID. A lot of contact tracing, a lot of making places more efficient around tech. A lot of this was honestly just connecting people who have the skills with people who want people that have the skills. A lot of it was talking about open source. A lot of it was talking about privacy. I'm actually very happy that almost all of the kind of conversations we had revolved around open source. Obviously, I did a lot of work with Dan Cohn, who passed away earlier this month, and it was really sad. But from the Linux Foundation, a lot of that work was really great, and it continues to be great. And it was really exciting to see open source be such a big part of that process, and everyone just kind of expected it.
Right. Well, so just on that last bit, everybody expected it. Can you trace a line between possibly the open source approach you took during the Obama campaign, and is there an arc that exists between that and everybody just expected it to be part of the solution?
I don't know if there's an arc between the Obama campaign and 2020 in regards to open source, but I do think that when you start talking to governments, when you start talking to folks that are trying to get a lot of stuff done very quickly with no time and no resources, oftentimes they're building on the backs of a lot of open source developers. They're building on a lot of the foundations that people like us have created, people like y'all have created, and they're doing that work. They're focusing on that because it's accessible and it's available. And one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of people were looking for service orgs, people who could support this work. And there's a lot of people making money off of open source. And then there's a lot of people who are building really great products, really great companies, and it's all open source. And it just makes me very happy, being that my first Linux install was in 1993, and I run it today. So it's like, for me, this was like, yes, finally, this is, I think every time I run into this, I'm like, finally, even though it's happened over and over again, it's like every time I'm so excited.
Nice. What tech are you most excited about right now?
Oh, man. I really am excited about WireGuard. I get really excited about VPNs. I get really excited about software-defined networks, mostly just because it solves this problem that I think is a real pain in the butt. It's just like, how do you connect these two computers that are in disparate locations? I think that's something that is fun. I'm really excited about Tailscale, which is using the WireGuard technology to make a more consumer-friendly VPN. And it's pretty exciting. I just installed Pop! OS, and I've been a Ubuntu user for many years. I just installed Pop! OS, so I'm actually pretty stoked about how easy it is. So right now I'm just kind of focused on some making my dev environment a little bit better. I'm really excited actually to hear about Barrier. PJ told me about it a couple of days ago, and just to hear it in the conversation earlier today was really good because this is a problem that I want to solve. But so for me, you can see that it's very myopic. Like I'm thinking just about the things that are kind of right in front of me. And that's because, you know, I've been programming computers for the last 6 months, building this fun project. And a lot of it has just been about how can I eke out the smallest amount of performance from my workstation, and that's kind of it. So I'm super stoked about that. So if anyone has any other ideas, please send them our way.
Question from BJ: do you own a T-shirt with sleeves?
I don't. I mean, I do. I buy T-shirts with sleeves, but then I cut them off because I try and be cool and show off my guns.
Try. What advice do you have for people who are new to leading teams?
I think the hardest thing that I had to learn was how important it is to listen during leadership. Oftentimes we think about leading like you are in the front, but oftentimes it's important for you to be in the middle, listening to everything around you, hearing what people are saying. I remember when I was leading my first teams at Threadless back in the day, and one of the things I did was I tried to replace all the work that I like to do with people who like to do it more than I did. What that meant is I had a bunch of crappy work that I didn't like to do at the end. But what was really neat is to see those people flourish and become leaders in their own kind of right in those organizations. And it was really nice to just sit back and kind of watch them do great work. Also, I got to do less work, which is ultimately my goal in life, is to do less work.
I guess there's only so much you can automate. Vim or Emacs or VS Code?
I mean, Vim, but VS Code seems to have taken over the world, which I'm not, so I'm fine with it. It's good.
Yeah. What can people do to get started in open source, do you think?
Oh man, I always think that the best thing to do is just look at the pull requests that are available on some of these big projects, like a documentation pull request, and just jump in and do it. It feels so scary to me, even today in 2020, to make a pull request on a public project. It freaks me out. But when I do it and it's accepted, or I do it, even if it's not accepted, even if they're just like, this is not up to the quality that we appreciate, I'm just like, well, I did it and it's out there and the idea is out there. And that's the thing that's important to me, is pushing that idea out there, getting it out there and having that conversation, even if it is scary. But yeah, just there's lots of help needed. Tagged pull requests all over the internet that are just looking for someone to jump in, fix documentation, fix a small bug, and it's a great way to learn and meet people.
Yeah, right on. One more question, because I think we've gone way over. Oh, there we go. It's the probably most important question you've ever been asked. Tabs or spaces?
There's spaces. I mean, I'm not an animal.
Grand. Okay, that's it. Thanks for having us. That was fun.
Okay, and Owen has just submitted a talk. Here he comes.
All right, I think that worked.
We can hear you, so share your screen and you're all set.
All right, and where's the share screen button again?
Right bottom center.
Yes, yeah, no, thank you.
Center, just off center.
All right, so yeah, I just threw this together really, really quick and am pulling it up together. So if this is at all interesting, then you can thank Joe Marks. Otherwise, you can blame him. So anyway, my name is Owen Shartle. I've been working around tampering with Arduino projects a lot over the years, and recently I've been working on a couple things related to like automating things with music and stuff like that, or little gadgets and guitar pedals, and I wanted to try to share a little bit of it. Let me go to present. All right, so Arduino, if you're not familiar, it is an open source electronics platform based on easy to use hardware and software. Definitely check it out if you haven't yet. So when I'm starting a project with Arduino, little microprocessors, circuit boards, I want to find an idea, something I wish I could automate. And where do you start? Oftentimes I like to start with the code. Once I have any idea at all. Recently, one of the things was keeping a tempo, controlling a tempo on of a guitar pedal, if you're familiar. So how many beats per minute you would like a delay or a loop or something to happen. And there are ways to tamper with that. So I'll jump into code. I'll try to get like some pseudocode in there just to have anything. And then I'll jump over and I'll start some schematics on some of the circuitry that I'd like to play around with. Once you start getting that together, you can actually pull out your Arduino. You start putting all the pins and the circuitry together. You upload your code, which again, Arduino has an open source IDE, which is mostly C++, you'll see, but there are ways to tamper with other things in there. So yeah, you work on your code, you compile it, you upload it to the board, and you get your pins all connected, how you want things to work. You're kind of working iteratively over and over until eventually you have more of a product that you're getting to. So here's a couple pictures of things I've soldered together, and I'd actually gone through the steps of getting a PCB, which is a printed circuit board. So after you get your schematics, something I've used is Easy EDA. I can share all this stuff later at some point if anyone wants it, but here's where you can make schematics. There's a couple tools out there on the internet, and then you can get them actually printed out so you don't have to worry about your prototype board like this picture in the top left. Like having wires everywhere. You can actually get the nice copper lines. So this thing here was actually to control automated lights to music. Basically, I send it MIDI control messages to control turning off devices and also controlling DMX controlled lighting, which I don't have enough time to talk about that stuff. But basically, my process has just been build it, document it, try it, build it, document it, try it, over and over and over. I recently just uploaded a project to GitHub if you want to check it out. So it's a MIDI tap tempo pedal. Basically, you can either send it MIDI messages, which are just like that's type of like instrument communication. So basically musical instruments can communicate using computers, how to represent things like notes or modulation. In this case, it's going to allow you to automate the tempo of pedals that used to not be automated using a 5-volt signal. But it'll also tap into newer devices that do support MIDI directly. And along the way, again, like I said, you want to document it so you can come back to it if you get stuck on your project. And yeah, get your schematics together, get your code together, document it, get up there on open source, and get your projects built. It's totally worth it. All right. That was fast.
That's the magic of 5 minutes. Whew, it comes and goes.
Yeah. Just made that presentation at 3:30, so critique lightly. Thanks, everybody.
You're not the only one to do that. I once was out at OSCON. Somebody said, a regular Lightning Talk speaker from other conferences sat in the front row with the speakers. I said, "You're not on the schedule." He said, "Put me on again." And about an hour later, he had his 5 minutes and he went up. Most people can't do that quite so quick. But anyway, thank you for speaking. Thank you to all 6 of our speakers who did our 7 speakers in 6 Lightning Talks. I will be putting the information on them up on the website sometime soon, now that I actually know what order they went in. If any of you didn't put your slides link in the original note, send it to me and I will get those included too. And just a reminder that Gong and I do travel. It has traveled more than 300,000 kilometers doing lightning talks. So hopefully, now that you've seen them done, next time around, you will be up here. And Charlie, I think you have a few things you need to say about the conference.
I do, Jeffrey. Thanks so much for once again hosting, being the keeper of the gong for CPOSC's Lightning Talks this year. And just a few closing comments and words for everyone, since it looks like everybody who is still with us today is in this session. Really, I'd just like to start off by saying and reiterating once again, thank you all so much for working with the entire CPOSC team this year, with all the speakers, because it's truly been an unusual and extraordinary year, to say the least. This was a new experience for us to deliver a virtual conference. I think the speakers did a tremendous job. I think the team did a tremendous job, and everyone who's been in attendance, you're all so engaged and just so welcoming and willing to put up with a few of the rough edges as we tuned this new experience this year. So thank you all for being here. The recordings will be up on YouTube in a few days, so watch for those. I'm sure there'll be an announcement indicating when those talk sessions will be available on YouTube. So look for the recordings. A quick reminder that there is an after party. It is Golf with Friends. Details about the after party are available in the reception area of the Hopin platform, so check that out. Another reminder too, the local team here, the Lancaster team, has a Slack channel. And if you're interested in joining us on that Slack channel, just reach out to the group by sending an email to team@cposc.com. So team@CPOSC. I'm sorry, not com.org. Thanks for catching that, Court. So team@cposc.org, and we'll get you an invite to our Slack channel. I'd just like to say on behalf of all the organizers, the CPOSC committee, thank you all for putting this together. There's really been two incredible MVPs to make this conference possible. First off is the CPOSC director, that's Mel Wall, who really has put in a tremendous amount of effort to bring this event to you today. And also Elise Ewing, who also just put in so much time and energy. If you've not organized an event like this, it's kind of hard to understand just how much energy and commitment and time you have to bring to an event. So I just would like to call out those two ladies for once again an incredible effort to bring this event to you. And just in closing, I'd like to say this is a small community, but don't underestimate your role in creating big waves. So not just the speakers, but everybody who's been in attendance. It's a small, but it's an open community. And it's not only educators like myself that can make a dramatic imprint or difference in the world. All of your skills, all of your talents, your creativity, your ability to create new things and to create connections, that can be a force for good. So I think if you've learned anything today, I hope you've picked up new tricks and tips. You've made great connections with old friends and new friends. But I hope that you don't forget that you have the ability to go out and make the world a better place. So if there's any message to leave you with, I hope that's it. This has been an extraordinary year. It's been an extraordinary time. Don't underestimate yourself. Don't underestimate the power of a small community. And those are our parting words for you today. So once again, thank you all for participating with us on behalf of the entire CPOSC team. Thank you to our speakers, our attendees. We will be back next year in some form, hopefully face-to-face. So thank you again. Have a great evening. Take care.